Okay, so welcome to the time since post tutorial. This tutorial is going to cover having this text box here. We're going to enter comments into this text box, and the code that we're going to create is going to tell the user or yourself when the post was made. So I'm going to type a test in here. Okay, and you can see that this is just posted a moment ago, and then as we refresh, the time goes up. So whatever we type in here, this is just going to keep going, and this goes all the way up to years. I'm just going to show you the code. We'll start from the top. We're not gonna I'm going to keep a skeleton of this code, so I'm going to keep the basic form and the process it takes as posting into the database. You can see that I've got my database open here with my fields. I'm going to keep all this code. I'm not going to go through this because it's going to take way too long. So we've got our connect. We're taking our posted thing here, we're adding slashes just for SQL security. In our query, we're checking if it has been posted, and then what we're doing is we're inserting this into the database, and we're using this time variable here, which is just using the time function, and what that does is it saves timestamps. If we click on browse, you can see that it saves a timestamp just in here with the text next to it. Okay, so then down here we've just got our standard form, our HTML form with the action, the method, everything, and then down here is the code that we're going to be working on. And this basically, what it does is it grabs everything from the database, it grabs the data inside the database, finds the time difference, and it switches through the code, and using each case and the conditions within these different cases, it then outputs the correct amount of time and then the suffix at the end. So we've got seconds, minutes, hours, days, months and years, and obviously we're using the seconds as the condition. We're checking the seconds, the difference. Basically, if you don't know what a timestamp is, go and look it up. Experiment with the time function. This is basically the amount of seconds from a specific date. I can't remember the specific date that it's from, but this basically allows you to format the seconds using the date function. I'll come down here and show you. We've got this date function here. We can set up a format inside here, and we can use time here, so we could say DMY, for example. This is the date, month and the year, and if we echo this out, this will actually echo out it in an actual date format from this timestamp, so from this number here. Okay, so that's pretty much all you need to know for the prep. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video, I'm going to blank the code, and we're going to start coding. Okay, so we've blanked the code. Well, I've blanked the code. Like I said, I've kept the rest of the form and the method it puts it into the database with. So I'm going to put this code on my website, which is phpacademy.org/forum. It will be in the forum in one of the top sections, like an announcement or something, but go and have a look for it there. The link will be in the description for this video. And I'll also be posting the full code if you want to take the full code for your own educational use. But for now, I'm going to keep this in here. So if we come back to our browser, I'm going to press enter, and at the moment you can see that we've got our form. It will enter data into the database using this code up here, but what it won't do at the moment is the code that I've blanked, which is to display the data, and obviously to display how long ago that particular post was made. Okay, so we'll make a start. The first thing I'm going to do is set up a query. So I'm going to use the MySQL query function. I'm going to put that inside a variable called get, and this query is going to select everything. So I'm going to use an asterisk for everything. That's like a star, and that's from posts. Now the reason I'm saying posts is because my table name, if we come into here, my table name is posts. So remember not to select from time since post. That is in fact the database name, which is displayed and selected here. Okay, so we're selecting everything from posts. We're going to order by time. So we're ordering by our timestamp here. Remember, this is the column time, and we're going to order that descending, so that's in descending order. So the very latest post is going to be at the top. Okay, now we need to set up a while statement. Remember, set up the block for the curly brackets, and we've got rounded brackets here. and inside here I'm going to set up a new variable called getRow, and that's going to equal another function which is MySQL fetch associative, and this is basically putting all the data from every record we have, we've only got one at the moment, into an array, and we're taking that data from get, which is displayed here. So we're taking everything that we're selecting and putting it into an array that we can loop through and use inside our while statement. There is a tutorial on this. If you check out the basics section on my YouTube, you'll find that there. Okay, so we're going to grab the data, and this is going to be get underscore time, so I'm creating a new variable here, and this is get row, and obviously because get row here is an array created from this function, we're using square brackets, and inside this I'm going to say time. So this is the column name, which is here, and I'm also going to say get text, so I'm using the same array, get row, and inside here is going to be text. So again, we're taking it from text. This is just the basic setup to grab data from a database in this way. Now the next thing we need to do is we need to create a time difference. I'm going to call this variable diff, and that's going to equal the time, which is the current time. What we've done is I've set a variable up here called time, and that's with the time function, so that's the current timestamp, and then we're going to minus it using a hyphen, and that's get underscore time, which is this time here. So what we're going to be left with is the difference between the time now and the time that's when the post was made. Now bear in mind this is only going to be in seconds, so what we're going to be need to do, I'll just type seconds there so you know, because it's only in seconds, we're going to need to use a switch statement, and we're going to need to check whether, or we're going to need to format this correctly. So we're going to need to calculate the seconds, and if you like, convert them into hours, days and everything like that, and then put the appropriate suffix. So we're going to start creating our switch statement. What I'm going to do is set up the switch statement here with the curly brackets again and the rounded brackets, and this switch statement is going to execute whatever happens. So what we're doing is we're switching one. You can put true here, it doesn't matter, but if we're switching one, then we're going to basically be running these cases whatever happens. So the first case I'm going to set up, we need case and some brackets here and a colon at the end, and we're breaking this case here. If you haven't used if you haven't used switches before, I have a tutorial on this as well. Okay, so this inside here is going to be the block that we're going to execute. The first thing we're going to do is seconds, which we will test in a minute, because we'll make a post and we'll see how many seconds. So what we're doing is we're going to say diff is smaller than 60. So if it's smaller than 60, then obviously it's less than a minute, therefore we can appropriately say this post has been made within a set amount of seconds. And what this is going to, what we're going to do is we're going to create a new variable called count, and this count variable is going to hold the diff value, so it's going to hold the amount of seconds for now. Later on we're going to have to change this to be able to format it properly, and obviously cut it down to hours, days or anything else, but obviously you'll see that later on. So the count is equal to diff, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create a three-tiered if statement, and we're going to check whether it's just been posted, whether we've got 1 second ago or more than 1 second, in which case the suffix is going to be seconds, because obviously we don't say 2 seconds ago or 1 second ago. So we're going to start our if statement here. I'm going to say if count equals 0, then the suffix is going to equal a moment. In actual fact, the suffix isn't, but the count is. Now don't let this confuse you, I'll tell you why I'm doing this in a minute. Else if count equals 1, then the suffix is going to equal second. So if we've got 1 second, we're formatting the suffix to second, and then otherwise our suffix is going to be seconds. so that's a plural. We've got more than 1 second. So if it's 1, we're going to have 1 seconds. If it's 2, 3, 4, 5, blah blah blah, up to 59, we're going to say seconds. Okay, so we'll be able to test this in a minute. I'll just explain why count. I set count there. We're going to come down here. I'm going to make sure we're going to actually echo out our text and the time that it was created ago. So we're echoing get text. At the moment, all that's going to do, if I just show you, I'm going to concatenate a line break onto this, an HTML line break using a dot. If we come back to our page, you can see that all it really does at the moment is it opens out a test. So I'm going to say another test, post that. You can see that another test has appeared and another one. Post. Okay, so we've got our text outputting properly. This is due to this, and obviously we're looping through here each record in the database, so we're going to output each one. Okay, but what we need to do is obviously we need a line break, and then we're going to say posted. I'm going to concatenate again, and I'm going to say count, which is the count here. So you can see why I did a moment now, because it's going to say a moment ago, or it's going to say count equals diff, so it might say 5 something ago. Okay, so count, I'm going to concatenate a space, and then I'm going to put suffix, and then I'm going to concatenate ago. So take a minute to get your head around that. All I've basically done is get the text, line break, posted, the amount of seconds, and the suffix ago. And I'm going to put a paragraph break on the end of that. So you can see at the moment what we've got is nothing. So posted blah 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 ago. The reason for this is that these were all posted a minute ago. So this is not going to be taken into account because the time is going to be bigger than 60. So if I come back to the script and I type recent test posted a moment ago, I refresh, posted 3 seconds ago. What's going on here? Let's check. Okay, we'll have a look up here. Diff equals time minus Okay, so yeah, there isn't actually anything wrong with the code. It's just that obviously we've got our case condition here, and as soon as something is less than 60, it's basically echoing that out for all of them. So obviously what we can do is we're going to go by the first one. In fact, let's delete everything. Okay, so let's refresh that. Okay, so test. Post that, tested a moment ago, enter, 2 seconds, and this will keep incrementing. Okay, so we've got that sorted. Now what we need to do is go on to do the second case statement, and this is going to be for minutes. Okay, so this is going to be a bit different. I'm going to basically copy and paste this down, and this is going to allow me just to keep the same structure but change the conditions inside the case statements, or the case conditions. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say if the difference is bigger than 60, so i.e. is bigger than a minute, obviously there's 60 seconds in a minute, and the difference is smaller than a certain amount of time. So what we need to do is we need to say, well, we don't want to go over an hour, so we want to find out how many seconds there are in an hour so we can keep our minutes inside. What we're basically doing is we're doing boundaries for each case statement to say obviously let's say it was I don't know, 68 seconds. That is basically a minute ago. So it's over a minute ago, but we're going to say a minute ago. We need to say it's less than an hour, because there are obviously 60 minutes in an hour. Therefore, if we weren't to have this condition here, we'd be going into hours. It's so hard to explain. I mean, this is a really complex thing to sort of get your head around if you are a beginner. If you are following, you might get the gist of how this is going to work. By the end of it, I'm sure you'll understand exactly what we're doing. But I'm going to use trusty Google to find out how many seconds there are in an hour. So seconds in an hour. Okay, that's 3,600. So if we copy this, we're going to paste it into there. Now what we want to do is, because we have the amount of seconds we're calculating, we need to divide the difference by 60. Let's just say we had approached 60 seconds. Now what we're going to say is we're going to say 60 divided by 60, and that equals 1. Now what we're going to do now is we're going to delete this. We're going to say if count equals 1, we're going to say minute, otherwise we're going to say minutes. Now the reason for this, like I said, let's say we've got 60 seconds, the difference between it is 60 seconds, which is a minute. It's been posted a minute ago. We come down here, we divide 60 by 60, so diff equals 60, so we're dividing 60 by 60, and that equals 1. That's 1 minute. Then we come back down to this if statement here, and we say if count equals 1. Now count is going to equal 1, and then the suffix now is going to equal minute. If this was 120, we'd be dividing 120 by 60, which would then leave us with 2. So count is going to equal 2. We're going to come down here. Count doesn't equal 1, it equals 2, so we're going to have the suffix as minutes, and therefore that will be 2 minutes. So hopefully that's a bit better explained. This is exactly how these work. So let's come back here to our page and press enter, and you can see that this has changed to 3.7 minutes ago. Now obviously there's a problem with this, because we're not going to want to display to the user or ourselves 3.78333 blah 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 minutes ago. It doesn't look good, but now you can see that the minutes part of it has actually worked. If we refresh again, you can see it's gone to 4.1, and then obviously if we refresh from there, it will constantly change. Now to get rid of everything after the decimal point, we're going to use a function called floor. So we're going to type floor, and we're going to encase this calculation here in brackets. We're going to come back, going to refresh, and that's gone to 4. So obviously when that hits 5, it's going to show exactly 5, but for now we're going to go back and continue coding. Okay, so actually I'll leave it at that. The second part of the tutorial is going to show how we're going to continue the rest of them. Obviously when we get to years, we're not using conditions for that, so we're going to need to have another special condition for that. But for now what I'm going to do is we're going to, if you guys go on to the second part of the tutorial, I'm going to continue this, and you'll get used to how you can copy and paste these case conditions down, and you'll get a bit more used to how this is working. So I'll leave you to it, and I'll see you in part 2.